you know, we've had so much thrown at us, and we've always just been there together and just ridden the damn storm.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the deep dive. Now, that quote, it sounds incredibly raw, doesn't it? Victoria Beckham, late 2025.
It does, but what you're actually hearing is, well, it's the payoff, the result of a really long game, incredibly sophisticated image management strategy.
Yeah, we're diving into Brand Beckham today, this massive multi-million-pound empire.
Exactly, and specifically how they handled probably the biggest threat to that brand, those infidelity allegations from way back in 2004.
And how they've sort of flipped it, right? Turned this 20-year-old problem into, well, almost an asset.
Pretty much. Our mission today is to really break down that pivot, how you get from, angry denials, calling things ludicrous, getting lawyers involved back in '04.
Yes, this, like, carefully crafted emotional vulnerability 2 decades later. It's quite the shift.
It really is. We're going to look at the deliberate comms strategy. You've got the Netflix doc, which was a huge part of it.
Right, seizing the narrative.
And then the specific media training techniques, those sound bites designed for headlines.
Like the damn storm quotes.
Precisely. And we also have to talk about the wild card, the factor they couldn't entirely manage.
Rebecca Luce, the accuser who, well, she hasn't gone away.
She certainly hasn't. This whole thing, it's basically a masterclass in modern reputation management.
Okay, so let's kick things off with that big proactive move. The Netflix documentary, Beckham. October 2023.
Yeah, and you called it a proactive strike, which is exactly right. This wasn't them reacting to something.
Right.
This was them getting out ahead, choosing to define this 20-year-old story on their own terms.
And crucially, it was made by David's own production company, right? Studio 99.
That's key. Maximum narrative control. They didn't wait for someone else to dig it up again. They built the monument themselves, This became the official record.
And the central strategy, it seems, was just clever. They kind of sidestepped the whole did he or didn't he question.
Completely. They didn't really touch the truth of the claims. Instead, the entire focus shifted
to the pain, the emotional cost to the marriage from the media storm that followed.
That's the pivot right there. It stops being about a potential betrayal within the marriage.
Victoria versus David.
And it becomes about a shared attack from outside. It's the Beckhams versus the world, or more specifically, the ruthless press.
And Victoria's role in that narrative is, well, central. She's positioned as the main victim of that external pressure.
Absolutely. And they use these really powerful emotional anchors to do it.
Like her saying it was the most unhappy I've ever been in my entire life. That hits hard.
It does. And admitting she actually resented David during that time, that feels very honest, very vulnerable.
It creates huge public empathy. It makes her pain the undeniable truth of the story.
Even if the cause of the pain remains ambiguous. And David's testimony, it feeds right into that.
Yeah, he talks about feeling physically sick every day, about them drowning.
It allows him to seem accountable, but accountable for the suffering caused by the stories, the pressure. Not necessarily for the alleged actions themselves.
So it's shared trauma. Their survival becomes this kind of joint victory over the media onslaught.
Which brings us back to that strategic ambiguity you mentioned. It's so important.
They walk this fine line. They never confirm. They never deny the affair itself in the doc.
It's calculated vagueness. It lets them validate all that pain, all that struggle, without ever having to actually address the facts head on.
And the audience kind of fills in the blanks, right?
Exactly. The sheer weight of the emotion they describe. It almost compels you to think, well, something must have happened.
But they maintain that official, plausible deniability.
It's smart. They know those allegations live forever online. So instead of trying to erase them, they sort of detonated the bomb themselves, but in a controlled way.
Establishing their own emotionally charged version as the definitive take.
And notice, too, how Victoria's line about them being against each other for a time, even that internal conflict is framed as a result of the external media pressure. It subtly shifts blame away from any potential internal cause. The media becomes the villain that turned them against each other.
Wow. Okay, so to really get how sophisticated this is, we need that contrast. We need to jump back to 2004.
Definitely. April 2004. The situation was, well, it was tabloid gold, wasn't it?
Yeah. David had moved to Real Madrid the previous summer. Victoria's still in the UK with the kids.
Creates that instant narrative. The lonely superstar husband abroad. Vulnerable.
And then his personal assistant, Rebecca Luce, comes forward.
With very specific, very sensational claims. A 4-month affair, details of alleged encounters, texts.
And the News of the World paid big money for it, reportedly around £350,000.
Yeah, a huge sum. And then, of course, other allegations surfaced, too, from Sarah Marbeck, Selena Laurie.
So the 2004 strategy versus the 2023 one, stark difference.
Night and day. Back then, it was all about absolute denial, forceful, unified denial.
David calling the claims ludicrous.
Lawyers were called in immediately. Official statements went out. Absurd and unsubstantiated.
And they sued, didn't they? Defamation against the News of the World.
They did, settled it confidentially in 2006. So the 2004 approach was pure attack. Discredit the story, prove it was false, legally shut it down, kill it.
Right. Whereas the new strategy is almost the opposite. It's not trying to kill the story anymore.
No, it accepts the story can't be killed in the digital age. So instead, it absorbs it. It validates the pain the story caused, shifting the focus entirely.
From, is it true, to look how much they suffered but survived.
Precisely. From a factual defense, which is maybe impossible, to an emotional narrative of resilience.
Okay, fast forward again, October 2025. Victoria on the Call Her Daddy podcast. This feels like the final polish on the strategy.
It really does. The tactical execution phase, you could call it. Highly prepared, you can be sure.
So the host asks her directly about the speculations from that time.
And Victoria uses a classic media training technique. It's called bridging.
Okay, explain bridging. How does that work in practice?
So bridging is where you acknowledge the questioner's point. You don't ignore the tough question.
Right.
But then you immediately pivot or bridge away from it to a key message you want to deliver, one you've prepared beforehand.
So she didn't answer directly about the speculations.
Nope. She acknowledged the difficulty, the hardship, but then instantly jumped.
To the soundbite, ridden the damn storm.
Exactly. And that phrase is just perfect messaging, isn't it?
It's memorable, punchy.
Viral ready. And crucially ambiguous. It confirms the struggle, reinforces resilience, but never actually says what the storm was.
Allows everyone to assume it was the affair without her ever saying so.
Precisely. And then straight after landing that killer line, she pivots again.
To their anniversary, right?
We've recently celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary. It's a brilliant reframe.
Positioning the sheer length of their marriage as the ultimate answer.
The ultimate victory, yeah. The subtext is, look, 26 years, that trumps any old gossip. That's the real story here. It makes the original scandal seem almost irrelevant now.
And then the final move, the real strategic deflection, came right after that, didn't it?
Yes. Just as you think they might linger on the storm, she completely changes the subject.
Back to her eating disorder.
Right back to it. But, just lastly on the eating thing, it's a deliberate gear shift.
Minimizes the time spent on David's alleged actions, pivots back to her personal narrative, her overcoming adversity.
Hugely controlled, very skillful deflection.
But, as we said, there's the uncontrolled variable, Rebecca Luce. The documentary inevitably brought her back into the conversation.
Yeah, and the Beckham team must have known that would happen. It was a calculated risk, part of the cost of doing this.
Luce's reemergence really highlights the limits of trying to completely control a narrative like this.
Absolutely, because her counter-narrative directly challenges their framing.
She flat out rejected the idea that David was just a victim of the media, didn't she? Said he needs to take responsibility.
Yes, and accused him of manipulation, of making her look like the liar, and interestingly, framing his actions as hurting Victoria further.
And what makes Luce perhaps difficult to dismiss entirely is her consistency.
That's a really good point. She's basically stuck to the same story for 2 decades. I've never lied about a single thing, she said.
Which contrasts with the Beckhams narrative, which has clearly evolved from ludicrous denial to this sort of pained reflection.
That consistency can lend an air of authenticity in the public eye.
And she was quite savvy in how she framed things this time around, too.
She updated her language, talked about her original tell-all, not just as, selling a story for money,
Right.
but as an act of taking control of her own narrative back then.
And she brought in the misogynistic double standard angle.
Yeah, pointing out that she and Victoria got the grief while David largely escaped public criticism. That resonates in today's climate.
But ultimately, the Beckham strategy relied on their sheer scale, right?
Absolutely. They banked on the fact that their platform, Netflix, global fame, immense brand power, would simply overpower Luce's voice appearing on, daytime TV or in smaller media outlets. They could marginalize her counter-narrative through sheer volume and control.
So stepping back to the big picture, the business goal here, this is all fundamentally about protecting Brand Beckham Inc.
100%. It's a commercial strategy at its heart. Turning that crisis into a story of survival actually strengthens the brand
How so?
because it reinforces values that are commercially valuable: loyalty, family sticking together, endurance, partnership through thick and thin.
Those are things you can sell.
Yeah.
They add depth to Victoria's fashion brand, to David's endorsement.
Exactly. And just as importantly, showing that vulnerability, that imperfection, it stops the brand becoming too perfect, too untouchable.
Makes them relatable almost.
Relatable in their struggle, aspirational in their survival. Weathering that damn storm becomes part of their appeal. It's baked into the brand now.
So the overall result, you called it a post-truth PR victory. Unpack that a bit.
Okay, so post-truth here means that, yeah, a lot of people watching, especially media-savvy consumers, they see the PR moves.
They see David bottled it, as some said, by not confessing. They recognize the strategy.
Right, there's skepticism, but, and this is the crucial part, that skepticism doesn't actually derail the strategy's success.
Because the emotional story wins out.
Because the emotional truth that Victoria's palpable pain, the visual evidence of their shared struggle, the simple fact that they are still together after 26 years, that resonates more powerfully than the factual debate about what happened in 2004.
So the acceptance overrides the skepticism. The narrative they built becomes the dominant one.
Exactly. The critical question in the public mind successfully shifts. It's no longer the damaging, did he cheat?
It becomes the brand-affirming, wow, how did they get through that and stay strong?
And that's the win. They've effectively taken their biggest liability, this potential brand killer, and woven it into their official mythology, monetized it even.
It really is a fascinating case study in long-term celebrity brand management in the modern media age.
Yeah.
Taking the worst thing and making it part of the legend.
It does make you think, doesn't it? Which leads to a final thought for you, our listener, to consider.
Okay.
What historical crisis, maybe something in your own life or a public event, what could you potentially reframe or recontextualize if you had 20 years and, crucially, total control over the narrative?
That's a provocative question.
Something to mull over.
Definitely food for thought. You've listening to The Deep Dive, where we uncover the stories, strategies, and facts behind the headlines. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.